Yeah.
You want to tell us about Not So Flyover?
Yeah. So I spent most of my life in the hospitality industry. I got into it really in an odd way. I lied on a resume and got a bartending job.
Okay. Were you underage or something? Or
no? So I was in a band. I was playing music, and the only job that I could really retain, while going out on tour and coming home, I could always go work at a bar. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And so, dear friend of mine, Ryan Gullett, who was the bar director over at Bluebeard for years, he and I opened up a bar in Greencastle, Indiana. That was my first time, first experience, really, working in the industry. So we were the youngest bar owners in the state of Indiana, and I think we still hold that title.
How old were you?
We had just turned 21.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Just turned 21, and you're like, let's buy a bar.
Yeah, and so Ryan went to bartending school in Chicago, and it was actually the establishment that we ended up opening was a old Cunningham restaurant group spot in Greencastle, right downtown, and first drink that came through, I lied on my resume. I said, yeah, I've got bartending experience. And the first drink was a screwdriver. And I was like, I'd go over to Ryan and I whisper, what the hell is a screwdriver? And he's like, grabs my belt loop and said, orange juice, vodka, let's go. And that was it.
That was so,
just dropped you off in the deep end.
Yeah.
That actually does kind of sound irresponsible. I'm on your side.
Yeah.
But it's like, what if a 16-year-old got a car dealership? Yeah. They're like, hey, how does this thing run? I don't know.
Exactly. And we opened up our spot. It was called Hoods and Capers, downtown Greencastle. Really cool, kind of underground speakeasy. Nice. We opened it up as a bar, and then got the kitchen open 3 months later. And our first chef was a kid that was cooked in town quite a bit named Justin Idlegeorge. And it was pre him going to culinary school. And so we had this kid that was super hungry about cooking.
Yeah.
He figured out our kitchen and menu right before he went to school, and we owned and operated for 3 or 4 years.
That's awesome.
Ended up selling it and moved out to Iowa, started working for a distillery, Cedar Ridge Distillery, one of the greatest working experiences I've ever had. And out there, Iowa, they have no pro sports teams and very few touring musicians come through there to perform. But everybody's passing through there on tour because you can get to Kansas City, Twin Cities, Chicago. Everybody's passing through. Nobody's playing. And so I ran the tasting room out at this distillery, and I said, hey, can we start hosting touring bands?
Yeah.
And I'll start hitting them up and saying, I want to give you guys a complimentary hospitality experience, a day off on tour. Typically, a lot of bands were passing through on Sundays and Mondays, day off. Maybe they didn't have a show. And so they had time to kill. And so I was like, well, if I could just give good hospitality to these artists, maybe they'll reconsider this kind of perception that the Midwest is flyover country. And I used to play music. And so that's how I met Ryan. We both met each other when we were really young on tour, and I know what life is like living on the road. And I know what good hospitality, or I like to think I know what good hospitality is. And especially when you're an artist on the road, it doesn't matter how many records you sell, you're still going to get shitty hospitality probably 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to give back to touring musicians. I went through a lot of mental health issues and kind of went through all of it after I stopped playing music because I thought that was going to be my life. And that was my mission. And so 10 years later, I ended up getting reconnected with the music industry in a much different light, kind of using my hospitality experience at that point to try to give people good experiences. And I would just cold email artists, agents, labels, and I'd send hundreds of emails, and I'd get no response until I started getting responses. And the first responses would always be like, hey, what's the catch to this? Because you're just blowing up my email with this, solicited bullshit. And you're saying you're going to take care of one of my artists for free. What do we have to do?
Right.
Show up.
Yeah. And that was it. And, kind of the first artist to say yes was Modest Mouse. And that was back in 2017. And I felt like going into it's I can do this. And they called me at midnight on a Sunday. They're like, yeah, we're coming tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay, let's ride. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been the most rewarding experience for me. just to see how much it matters to artists.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's super cool.
How did that first one go?
Yeah, I was curious. Like, what was your like go-to original kind of idea for it, and then how has it changed to like where you are now?
Yeah,
like, what you're offering?
So the first 2 or 3 years, I tried to get bands to come through the distillery, just because I was there.
Yeah,
beautiful property, winery. There's a beautiful vineyard out there, and you can make a day out of it. I mean, or an afternoon out of it. And so you walk the property, Modest Mouse came out. We ripped open a bunch of different barrels that we had our master distiller pull from. When VIPs come out, it's like, let's pull the best barrels in the rick house and let's let these guys rip them open and see what they taste like. And, we did that for hours, and then the hotel shuttle didn't come back and pick them up. And so then it just turned into a long night of all of us just hanging out. And, that band took care of me in ways that, had that night not gone so well, I don't know what I'd be doing, if I'd still be doing it now.
Yeah.
Because they helped me out a lot and got me in touch with a lot of people that, helped me just take care of even more artists. And so forever indebted to those guys and the distillery for facilitating it and, taking that expense and saying, let's give back to these musicians and let's hope that they remember Iowa or Indianapolis in a different light, and get them off the bus, get them out of the hotel room, and expose them to all the greatness that the Midwest has to offer.
Very modest of them.
Yeah, right?
Slam that boo button, please.
That's not applause?
I'm eating brunch with my people though. Homie that just cooked up a feast and we about to eat.